My video skills are so limited. Alright, so my open Tatura trellis, about 15 to 18 months in the ground. I'm behind on my pruning and training as it is, and so now I'm going to show you this before I actually start pruning, which is on the schedule for this week. And I'm going to have to remove a lot. Well, these trees, when I were grafting these trees, I originally had them set to go in the ultra high density field, but decided to put them on trellises in the end. So as a result, I have a lot of the graft points was high already, and so I missed the first wire, because sometimes I graft trees maybe 15, 18 inches maybe up, and by the time it grows out, you know, it's above that 24 inches. On this trellis, the bottom wire is 24 inches, and that might be too low for mango. I'm gonna need to correct this as it is. See how it's growing straight up like that. It might be too low for mango, 24 inches, because you have to let it grow somewhat to get to the flower stage. Take this for example. This growth, I'm gonna prune this off, and then it's gonna throw out shoots, and it's gonna throw out, you know, a number of shoots, and I'm probably only gonna keep 2 of them, and that'll bring it out another 12 inches off of this, and then from that flowering will nearly bring it down to the ground. So 24 inches might be too low to start with mango, or you can be dealing with a lot of mango on the ground. We might want to bring it up to 30 inches and not have to deal with that. But they're looking pretty good for the most part, except for the ones that either I broke bottom branches or I let overgrow too much, and I'm gonna have to correct it by pruning it back. Some trees, like this one, I only had 1 branch for the bottom wire, and not for no branch for this wire. But now that I'm looking at it, it's getting a lot of sunshine on that lower part. So I think I'm gonna try and put a scion and stick it in there and try to graft on another branch. And if I can successfully graft on another branch, you know, I can recapture that space. If not, I will try to encourage this one to span the entire distance, which is 8 feet. Right now it's already at the 4-foot mark, at the halfway mark, maybe a little bit past the halfway mark. But one that I have over down the line there is probably at the 5-foot mark already, nearing 6 feet on that one. So it looks like it is possible to grow them over. So that is one option. When you miss the wires, you can try to just graft on, and if the trees are young, 1-2 years old, you can just put a side graft right into the side of that. You don't have to top it and graft onto new shoots. You can just side graft it. I've had really good success in the field doing that. So I'm gonna have to go through this, correct some of the stuff that grew wrong, try to fix some of the broken branches and damages. This, for the most part, all of these trees are white piri, and I've mentioned in some of my other videos, white piri just grows good. It just grows good. Makes a nice, very nice canopy, and on the trellis, it's so easy to work with. There's so much shoots, and they're really easy to bend. And some of my other varieties are not so easy to deal with. And let's try to walk over to the next row. The next row is mostly Nam Dak Mai, which Nam Dak Mai is a small tree to begin with, a slow growing smaller tree to begin with, and as a result the branches are a lot thicker, and because they're thicker, they're a lot less pliable, and I've broken a ton of branches trying to bend down the Namdok Maya, and it's mainly inexperience. Once I get the hang of Namdok Maya, I'll know how to avoid. I've already done it, but I know how to avoid breaking the branches a little bit more. So, slower growing tree, as you can see. And as it goes, a lot more broken branches. These ones flowered heavily this year. And when I do lose out on them, or when they grow straight up, they're really the only way forward is to cut them down and start training new shoots, I think. Sometimes on the bigger ones you can, sawdust cuts in them so that you can bend the branch, which I'll do with some of the heavy ones, but mostly I just cut them back and let them regrow. Here's another one which, if you're missing the bottom wire, I have 5 wires on my trellis. If you're missing the bottom wire, that's 20% of production. So I'm going to try and graft on pieces onto this. This one I'm going to try and graft 2 pieces onto it and see if I can get it, even 1 piece. If I do 1 piece low and then train that 1 piece into two branches and have them train along the bottom wire, increase production by 20%, just like that. This is mostly Namdok Mai. So in establishing your trellis, some trees are easier to prune than others. They all can be pruned onto a trellis. It's just some are easier than others. And then here you go, trying to be organized and accidentally slip in a keep, which is probably the fastest growing, biggest tree, into the line with Namdok Mai, which is the slowest, smallest tree I have. And this guy is already approaching the top wire. The difference in growth rate and vigor in trees, just by variety, growing side by side, getting the exact same things. All things to take into account when you're growing. You would think that having a semi-dwarf, slow-growing tree would make things easier, but it appears to have made things a little bit more challenging, but not beyond anything. And now I get into mostly the Keat variety, and the Keat variety is just such a fast-growing tree. They're all past the 4th wire already, but this one also has a lot of stiff branches too, and it doesn't want to throw out. It often just flushes off of the terminal. You see? Oh, it's hard to see, but it just throws out 1 shoot off of the terminal end instead of throwing the. This one has 3, so I can take out the middle and have the 3 sprays. But this one, if you don't prune it, it'll just grow 1 long. If you don't prune it, it'll just grow 1 long branch. And really, when you're establishing the tree, you have the lateral growing branches. You have the lateral growing branches that are growing along the wire. And then off of the lateral branches, you have the sub-lateral branches. So hard to see, sorry. You have the sub-lateral branches like this one. They grow up. So I have 1 sub-lateral here that I pruned, and now it has 3 branches to work off of, and these ones will be the flowering. So you'll be flowering off of the sub-lateral branches. So you have the lateral that grows along the wire, then you have the sub-laterals that grow up or around the laterals, and this is where the flowering will come from. So this is where the pruning will be most important, is establishing the sub-laterals that will continue, these sub-laterals here are still small and green stemmed, but eventually they'll become thick and woody, and you'll just be able to cut them back and they'll throw out new shoots. And eventually you're gonna have to replace the whole sub-lateral, because you would just cut it back down to nothing. And then at that point you might have to reestablish your laterals too. But these are things that I'm gonna learn going forward, and not exactly true know right now. Although there are people who do know at this point. So this is my field, little bit overgrown. I'm gonna need to go back through, train these along the wire, tie them up, prune them. Some of them I'm gonna have to re-establish the laterals because I let them get too wild. But they're growing nice. They're growing nice. Yeah, different varieties grow at different speeds. Some of these rows need more work than others, and so far so good. Trees are growing fast. There is a lot of learning. I had a lot of trees that died, branches. I had a lot of branches that died. Not too much trees died, but I had a lot of branches that just dried up and died. Maybe I had them tied down too much, too lateral. Maybe I needed to let them grow out a little bit before I start tying them up. All part of the learning curve. These flowered heavily. Almost all the trees flowered heavily. I just knocked down most of the flowers. But at this rate, being only 15, 18 months in the ground, it isn't hard to imagine it flowering and being able to sustain its fruit for already at 2 years. And why not? Because you want to ultimately slow down the growth of these trees. You want them to be putting all of its energy into growing fruit, and as it does that, it spends less energy growing wood, reduces the vigor, keeps the trees smaller longer. So that's what I got for you guys so far. You just gotta let them go. Next year it'll be a lot fuller, I'm sure. Until then.